Okay, today on the show, we have Leslie Singer with the Singer team with Brown Harris Stevens in New York City. Let me tell you more about Leslie. Now, Leslie is an award-winning broker and has consistently been one of Brown Harris Stevens' top performers, leading a team that has repeatedly been number one in sales for the firm. She has also earned a reputation as one of the most approachable and loyal representatives in the industry. Leslie's track record of success is a function of her exceptional negotiation skills, tailored marketing solutions, and an innate ability to help clients navigate the complex New York real estate market. Her honors include winning the Real Estate Board of New York Deal of the Year Award, also being acknowledged as one of the top women in real estate by New York Real Estate Journal, and being recognized as one of the top real estate teams nationwide by the Wall Street Journal. Born and bred in New York City, Leslie's informed, sophisticated sensibilities and her MBA background guide the team in preparing for transitions and transactions, discerning value and return on investment. Now, I want everybody to open up Instagram and TikTok, and I want you to follow Leslie and her team. It's the same username for both. It is Singer Team NYC. That's Singer. So Singer Team NYC, both Instagram and TikTok. And we will have a link to those in our show notes. You can click on those and follow, because Leslie is doing some really, really cool stuff and her team on social, especially on TikTok, which she just got into, which we can talk about too. Anyway, Leslie, welcome to the show.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. But now all of a sudden I got nervous because those accolades, now I have to live up to them.
That's true. There's a lot of pressure to deliver. You know what? I'm going to say this at the beginning because
Yeah.
since I just, really, I'm so impressed with what you've done. And I usually leave this to the end, and then I realize not everybody makes it to the end. So before we actually start the interview, it's funny. I've been doing this 5 years. You think it would have occurred to me sooner, but I guess better late than never. But if you are an agent in New York City and you are shopping around for maybe a new team, a new firm, maybe you think you could be a good asset to Leslie and her team, reach out to them and have a conversation, and maybe you could be a possible good fit for the Singer team. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there first.
Except now they need to listen to see if they actually want to do that. So I think
They're going to want to work with you. I assure you. You are a big, big, big deal. And that's the other thing too, is definitely, that's why we're so excited to have you on the show. But I would love to start. So what I don't really know is how you got started, because I know you're this big success now. But everyone starts somewhere, and I would love to hear about how and why you got into real estate.
So I'll try and make it a shorter story but it was actually really interesting. My background is marketing, and I was the vice president of marketing for American Movie Classics. I had the dream job, truly a dream job, but I was flying all over the place, and I ended up with these two little kids that, like, immediately, they're 17 months apart, and I couldn't be flying around the world and having two little ones at home. So I really strategized about what my next steps were. And it was really hard to come to this decision, but I was like, I have a marketing background, very, very strong marketing background. I have an MBA, so I can do board packages, and I love finances. And I grew up in Manhattan. I know it like the back of my hand. And if I were to go into real estate, I wouldn't be traveling. So I took the MBA and I took the marketing background, my knowledge in Manhattan, and triangulated on real estate. So it was a very thoughtful and strategic decision. For anyone that's starting out, and so that's how I came into the idea of real estate, and it was really, truly for those reasons. And for anyone who's starting in real estate, I talked to a lot of firms when I was thinking about, starting my career, and every firm has a very different corporate culture and a very different way of proceeding. And so it was really fascinating. And not only does each firm have a different corporate culture, but even within a firm, certain offices within the same firm even have a different corporate culture. So I interviewed with a lot of different firms. And the other thing I will say is having a mentor when you start is really, really, really important. So I met with someone at Brown Harris Stevens. I met with the manager. Again, interviewed with a lot of different firms, but came upon a manager at Brown Harris Stevens who said, huh, I got a call. It was someone who was looking for an assistant who would bring me on, and we would kind of did a handshake, but certain arrangements were made that I would cover all weekends, open houses, just to start and get the mentoring. And we said we would try it for 6 months. And 6 months turned into 18 years on a handshake. And everything was just above board. And it was again, for me to learn, but within 6 months, it kind of like became more of a partnership. And I really brought my marketing background to the whole process and marketed ourselves, branded ourselves. And it's great. So
well, before
yeah.
I go into
Yeah.
sort of how you got started, and with that, because I think in particular that marketing background is so incredibly useful for agents when they get well at any point in their career,
Yeah.
but certainly when they get started. I was going to say with AMC, I just going back to American movie classics, I worship the lists. I'm thinking of American Film Institute. Okay, American Film Classics is different. Sorry, I'm thinking of AFI, who puts those lists together. So sorry, I was getting confused. But yeah, American Film Classics. Yeah, big. You were AMC. I'm sorry, AMC. Yes, but yeah, I'm a big. Oh God, I love American movie classics as well. The brand that they've built is impressive. But
yeah, no,
so
I mean, I was at Time Warner. I was at an ad agency. I mean, I loved what he did. But I have to say, I'm equally passionate that I get to do, and it's a privilege to get to do what I do every day.
And I imagine you get to sort of scratch the creative itch as well, because with you get to be in full control of your branding, your marketing, your messaging. So does that sort of satisfy the part of you that loves being creative? And
but I also have to say every deal, and no two deals are alike, and you have to be creative in this industry and think outside the box. If you're promoting a property, how to differentiate, but also when it comes to a board package and someone's financials, and I'm not saying you have to be creative with their financials, but every deal has some sort of creative component of how to make the candidate the strongest possible presentation, etc. So I get creativity, and there's a lot of creativity in how I handle my clients, but we can get into that too now, or we can get into it later.
Let's jump into it now. I'd love to hear about sort of how you approach clients. Well, first, actually, no, let's back up. I want to first find out about attracting clients, because even though you've been doing this for a long time now and a really impressive career, everyone gets started with really no clients. And so I'm curious, how did you, when you first started 18 years ago, what were your strategies? I imagine you had some sort of sphere of influence because you live, but New York is so transient that I don't know how much that helps. But you did grow up there, so I'm curious.
Yeah. So, I mean, interestingly enough, when you're first starting out, and yes, it was really important that I had a strong mentor behind me, which could show that there was someone with extreme knowledge and a track record as well. And then honestly, the Brown Harris Stevens brand. So those are definitely great things to have in my back pocket, but you don't always want, or nor do your friends want to work with a newbie, right?
Right. Oh, when they're buying $1 million home. Oh, my friend just got her license a week ago.
Exactly. And nor do they always want to show their finances to you, right?
It is. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it is such that is something that nobody really has ever. We've done 430 episodes, and just that little piece that you said about I've had lots of guests
Yeah.
say, well, I didn't want to work with my friends because I was afraid I would screw things up, or I was afraid to ask for their business. But the one thing I never thought about was what
Yeah.
you just said, which is I don't know what my friends earn. I don't.
Right.
I've never asked them. I was taught not to ask.
Right.
And I was taught that any discussion of that was either considered braggadocious or being rude. So that's really interesting. So that's a really strong point. So you had these people, but maybe you didn't feel so comfortable asking for business.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. And look, and again, being that I had someone in my, like as almost a partnership in the beginning, I could offer that should they want to work with me, not only did they have the knowledge behind and the security of that, but that he could review their finances. But even that, like, felt it just, I understand their hesitation. But what I
Sure.
did do is in my little sphere of influence was I actually started like the old fashioned way. And I kind of went to 10 of my really, really good friends. And I asked each of them for 10 names of people that I could contact just to start my own database. So, that's okay, only 100 people, but then those 10 people. So almost like, those, what are they, like mail chain things that you used to get.
Yeah.
Um, so that was one thing I did. And I started a newsletter, which was something that my mentor had been doing. But there was always a column that was Singer Says. And it
Yeah.
kind of talked about like the New York school system or, those type of things that were New York based, truly New York, that showed that you had an insider influence on Manhattan. And we would mail the building's newsletters. And so we would
Oh, that's interesting. So you would just blanket mail.
blanket mail.
Yeah.
So part of my working at Time Warner was direct marketing. So I was like, let's do direct marketing. Let's do a
Yeah.
newsletter. And people held on to those newsletters. It was pretty great. So that was one couple of the things. Trying to think.
Can I pause
Yeah,
you for a second?
please.
Because I'm
Yeah,
going to tell you something
yeah,
that's not going to surprise you, but also surprise you at the same time. Because well, so I
yeah,
moved into a new development a year and a half ago,
yeah,
and it's a nice building. There's 40 units, a townhome. There's a few townhomes. But it's a nice building and brand new development. Now, obviously, all of us who have purchased probably not leaving any immediate time soon, but
yeah,
in a year and a half. So we're talking about sending out mailers, trying to
yeah,
establish your
yeah.
brand. At some point, all of us are probably going to move. At some point, it would be unlikely that at our building people would live there for 40 or 50 years, although they could, but it's unlikely. So because of the neighborhood that we're in, and it's just one of those younger neighborhoods. Um, Not one piece of mail from any realtor just
Really?
saying, hey, like obviously that would be a long-term play. They're probably like, well, if I'm going to start mailing, I'm going to be needing to mail for the next 5 to 7 years, but why not? What's amazing is not one piece of mail from any realtor in the last year and a half. And I don't think it's because people know that I'm in the business. I just think nobody's thought to do this. So I think even that's kind of a lost art these days. And there's so much opportunity. So I just wanted to mention
Completely
that,
agree.
yeah,
And I think people are cutting back on mailing, right? Because we have social media, we have everything else, but it is a really great way to cut through the clutter. And when I do a new listing, I mail the neighborhood and I mail the building as well, because people who love your building, like you may
mhm.
not be ready to sell, but you may know someone who wants to buy there because you love the building and they come to visit
Yeah,
you,
of
right?
course.
So like it's just another way to keep yourself top of mind.
You also said something else, and I apologize for like
No,
interrupting you every few moments, but
no,
you said
no.
something that at first I sort of was like, I didn't understand it. And then as you were talking, it made sense. And this is
Please.
this is no, this is a thing nobody else has said either, which was, so there used to be this old sales technique at the closing table, or whether you're selling a car or a house or whatever, the old salesman 101 was like, by the way, I'd like the name of 3 of your friends. Now and nobody likes that, right? We all are like, yeah. But what you did was much smarter and definitely works, and it isn't uncomfortable, which is you go to your friends and you
Yeah,
say, "Hey, I'm starting my business. I'm not obviously, if you know someone who wants to buy or sell, obviously I'd love to talk to them, but I would just love to get to introduced to some of your friends."
yeah.
And basically that's what you were asking, and that's just called networking.
It's just
And
networking. It's
I just
totally.
want to make I just want to make sure that anyone listening, that is a really smart strategy, because your friends are the ones that want you to succeed, and you're not asking them to you're not really asking them for
You're not
much, just being
asking
like,
for a sale. You're not asking them for
no,
no, no, no. It's just like, who do you think would be really good for me to reach out to and talk to
oh,
or mail?
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And I
Thank you.
know if somebody asked me, I mean, it's such a simple thing, but no, really people don't do this very often, I don't think. If one of my friends were to say, I'm starting this XYZ business, whatever it is, hey, could you give me some names of people that might in the future maybe be a candidate for me? I just want to put them on my list or reach out. I wouldn't hesitate. I'd be like, of course I will. Like, no big deal.
Yeah, no, and
But asking a client at the closing table, that one feels more
that's
uncomfortable to me.
it is.
Yeah.
Definitely. I
So
agree.
I just
I
wanted to honor you
thank you.
for a couple of those really though, it's always the small things, right? Like people say things on the show, and all of a sudden like they just kind of go past it because they don't realize how important I think that is, and I'll be like, oh, stop, you just. So you've done
Well,
that several times, so I promise to not
I appreciate
interrupt as
that.
much anymore,
No,
but
no, I appreciate that. The other thing was I noticed this happened when my children were in nursery school and we were applying for kindergarten. A lot of the parents would talk to me because I grew up in Manhattan about the different schools, and I only went to one or two of them, right? But they would ask me, and I had a general knowledge of the school system. And I was like, why don't I give back? And this is in my first year of real estate. Why don't I give back to the community and by hosting seminars about the school system? And so I would have a getting into kindergarten school
oh,
panel and a getting into nursery school, which is a huge thing in Manhattan. I would have these panel discussions, and I would bring in not only parents, but guidance counselors. And yes, they have them for nursery school. And yes, they have them for kindergarten. But it was my way to give back to the community with also the self-serving idea that these people will be making a decision shortly once they know where their child is getting into school as to where they want to live. Um, so
I
then,
I love that. And here in Chicago,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm not a parent myself, so I don't know if those exist. I've heard of realtors doing, so you want to buy a condo, so you want to buy a first home. Those seminars happen. Those are pretty common. I've not heard about school, and that is every new parent's sort of one of their biggest issues is especially in a big city, where is my child going to go to school? Where are the safe, areas? What are the best, academics, etc. That's really
yeah.
smart.
So now I do it through college because that's kind of as my kids got older and I had more knowledge, and we do college seminars as well.
Wow.
And I have to say it's fun for me. It shows how old I am, but there are clients that I helped with the nursery that I've also helped with the college. I mean, it
Isn't
just,
that incredible?
yeah,
All
yeah,
the way through.
yeah. So,
Well, my sister and I both went to Miami University out in Ohio, Miami of Ohio, and then my sister ended up in New York City. And they actually have a pretty strong alumni, uh, you know,
yeah.
contingency there in New York, which is surprising. Whenever I met people in Ohio that went to Miami,
Right.
that were from New York, I was like, how did you find out about, this really, we should
Yeah,
be in Florida. We're in the middle of Ohio,
right.
and yeah, but anyway, that is amazing. So you still do those, you're
Yeah,
just, and you
yeah.
go all the way, you still do all the way from nursery school up through
You know what?
college.
We've been really focused more on the college because
Yeah,
again, it's a life cycle and it's a really nice way to give back. And,
I love that.
eventually people will think about, my home is larger than I need, right? As
Yeah.
their kids go off to college. So
Well, and
But
just even planning for college with 529 plans and the financial part of it is so daunting and so scary for new parents, that it's something that they have to start thinking about pretty much
yeah,
right away. Yeah.
yeah, in
Um,
utero. Yeah.
yeah, in utero, it's yeah, yes, my one nephew is 5, and so he's got some time. But my sisters they've already figured it all out. It's already all figured out, and
Amazing.
I was like, good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so that is a really smart strategy because again, you are giving back, you're
Yeah.
contributing, you're providing value, and then oh, by the way, I'm also a realtor, so
Yeah.
um oh,
Well,
what a
and
sweet
in
idea.
my mind, finding the perfect fit for a school is very similar to finding a perfect fit for your family in a building. And the
Mm.
application process of a applying for these schools is not that different. Of course, you're not showing all your financials, but you still have an application process for getting into a school. You have an application process for, a co-op. So there were so many similarities, but again, it was a nice way for me to give back with a minor ask, right? So it felt good.
And so you said you bring in guidance counselors. Do you ever bring in representatives from the schools themselves?
I have done that, and I've done parents. So you have a really, really nice range of people. Yeah.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
such a great idea. I
Yeah.
love that.
So
Um,
I
wow.
think it's
Oh,
really important. I think it's really important to really think about what's authentic and genuine to you, with whatever you do, because people will, they can feel it, they can sense it, and it's really where you're coming from, the most honest place. And I think it's great for connecting. So I would say to anyone starting out, think about what's really authentic and genuine to you, and follow that. So that, those were places for me that felt
that,
really,
that
really good.
yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. I also want to go back to this idea of open houses because I
Yeah.
feel like that too is so easily like, yeah, sit open houses, but it's not, maybe it doesn't sound very exciting to talk about. But I
Oh
will
yeah.
say that almost every guest I've had on, and I only really interview top 1% producers, they all love and they all started doing open houses for other agents and learning how to talk to clients as they walk in and out, how to understanding how to have conversations about real estate, how to talk to clients, understanding their needs. How important was it for you
Oh my
to
God.
do a lot of those reps, sort of going to the gym almost of open houses? How critical was that for you?
So for me, those weekend open houses where I took over our listings and had the open houses, those were really, really, really critical. And I will tell anyone, even if you are representing a property, you should have and know inside and out all the other competitive properties. Because when you get someone at that open house and you say to them, because it's a really critical question, does this work for you? And they say, nah, you know what, this or that. And then you can say, this may not work for you, but how about this? I think you should look at this. May I make an appointment for you? So know your competition and turn that person, if they're not going to be the buyer for your property, turn them into a buyer for another property. It's a art, and it's a great opportunity. Um, so yes, those open houses were really, really, really important. The other thing is, when other brokers are holding open houses, go to as many open houses as possible and learn the market, whether it's a 1 bedroom, a studio, a 2 bedroom, a 5 bedroom, because inevitably you'll be at a cocktail party and you'll be, oh, you were interested on the Upper East Side. I saw this great 2 bedroom the other day, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just, get to know the market. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I've been doing this so many years and I still go to open houses so I can see what's out there. So
And also too, it's great. I don't love the word networking because I just feel like that I don't even know always what that means. But this idea of going to these broker open houses allows you to interact with other
oh,
realtors And there's a
Absolutely.
real practical reason to do this, even other than just being fun and friendly and nice and
No, no,
and
no.
that
You learn the market, and I mean,
you learn the
uh,
market.
you, when I'm talking to other brokers and I'm going to the open house, inevitably there's a discussion of like, what are you seeing? How are you finding the market? This is what I'm
Yeah.
experiencing. And there's also the great discussion of, hey, I'm bringing this on. Do you know anyone? Or,
Yep.
you know, someone doesn't want to list this, but they're thinking about listing it. Would you have any? I mean, there are so many dialogues that are important. Plus, just to have your face out there, of course.
Well, and I imagine too, like during the pandemic, for example, when what once the sort of pandemic was subsiding and people, the interest rates were so low and everyone was trying to buy. I imagine it doesn't hurt going to an open house, at some point, introducing yourself to the other agent, making nice with them, developing some sort of friendship or relationship, professional friendship with them, probably doesn't hurt then when they see out of the 30 offers they just received, when they see a name that they recognize and like, I know this woman, she's awesome. I met her at an open house. She seems great. It probably doesn't hurt at getting a little bit more attention on that offer.
No, you're absolutely right about that. I'm working on a transaction right now, and the offer was accepted, honestly, probably a good 6 to 8 weeks ago, of which we still haven't gone to contract. And I represent the purchaser, and the broker on the other side is like, thank God it's you. Thank God it's you. I know we're going to get there.
Yeah,
Ne-
because of
And,
you.
and she said, never in my 40 years have I experienced this, but like, so to your point, making making contact, making connections, just so someone, when a deal comes together, they have a name and a face and they feel good about it, is really truly important. So
I'm curious too, because you've been in this industry almost 20 years. You've seen a lot of agents come and go. You've seen as you've been building your business and your team. What are some of the mistakes that you see agents making as they are trying to build their business? And there's so many mistakes that agents make. But what we try to do on the show is help agents avoid some of those pitfalls. So is there anything that comes to mind? I mean, aside from like not working hard enough, yes, that's usually the main reason I find that people tend to exit the industry. But it isn't always that. And sometimes people just make decisions that they could have made differently. So is there anything that you sort of see agents, any mistakes that agents make that really that could be avoided? Anything that comes to mind?
um God, I have to think about this for a second. Mistakes. I think sometimes when you're, young and you're hungry, you want the deal more than you
Yeah.
like, you want it too much and you lose sight of your client and you push for a deal. And I think a lot gets lost there. And your relationships are so important that you can't want the deal more than your own client. And deals are going to come and go, and they're going to come together, or they're going to fall apart, or whatever. But making sure that your client feels really attended to throughout. So really spending that time and not thinking of it as just like a one deal and then you're on to the next, because you build your business by clients referring to you or coming back to you, and don't make something like a one trick pony.
Yeah. Now
So
that's really, really good advice. And I'm curious too, with the amount of time and the number of deals that you have done, how important is it to anticipate your clients' needs or their mental state? And I don't mean, whether they're sane or insane. I mean their anxiety,
yeah.
their fears, their joy. How critical is it to be able to manage those expectations and those emotions for your clients? Because I know every time I've purchased and sold a property, something always goes wrong. There's always
Yeah,
a moment
there's
where I'm like,
always
well, this is all falling apart. This is all going to be a big disaster. And then it isn't. But the stress of that is real. And I'm curious about how you help your clients through those difficult, moments of a transaction.
Well, so I mean, you bring up a really, really important point, which is every deal has a moment.
Yeah.
Every single deal has a moment. Like there's, and you never know when it's going to happen, but it's kind of like when it happens, you're like, ah, here it is. And you work through it. I try to the best of my ability to always handle all those moments without including my client. So
Right.
I take on the stress, and try and navigate to get to the right answer without having to stress them out, and only go to them at those really critical moments that I'm like, I can't do it without, including them. But I do think you spend time with the client up front, and just in your dialogue of getting to know them, of, is this a life transition, right? So you come into people's lives, whether they're getting married, having a baby, it's their first time purchase. Some are getting divorced. Sometimes it's death. Sometimes it's an estate sale, and getting to know what their objectives are, but where they are in their life cycle. And understanding that will help you navigate with them, and listening throughout the entire process. You'll get to sense whether this is someone who makes a really quick decision, this is someone who needs more handholding, this is someone who needs to see 25 properties, they only need to see 5, So it's a lot of listening, and there's a lot of handholding. And there are times when you're a therapist, right? Because you're
Yeah.
dealing with someone's largest asset.
Hmm.
Um, they've exposed everything. They've told their life story in a board package. They've shown all their financials. They're extremely anxious. They start envisioning themselves in the property, and for whatever their reason is for their transition, that comes to play. So, and they're, for sellers, that's a really emotional time. They may have, brought up their whole family there, and they're selling because they don't need that family home anymore, but it's still emotional, even if they're excited about where they're going. It's still emotional. Or, if it's a death or whatever, divorce. So yes, transitions and getting to know your client. But there are a couple things I do, which is I try and understand that client really well in the beginning, and I listen. But I really respect someone's time. So if I'm working with a buyer, I try and identify, before we even go out, 5 to 10 properties that I think are going to be a perfect fit. I line those 5 properties up in a row, get a car and driver. So I only take them out of their day to day for maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then we can kind of have a conversation after that, like what worked, what didn't work. And then I can refine the search that much more. But I'm always sensitive to someone's time.
Can I ask about doing showings? This is such a
Yes,
simple question. Everybody
yes.
does them differently. Do you visit the properties before your client?
I love previewing. I love to preview a property. It allows me to eliminate if I don't think it's going to be appropriate. But B, when I get to that property and I think it is the right fit because I previewed it, it not only gives me ability to be comfortable in the showing, but I have a lot of knowledge, and I can point out to my client, the things that I know are the, important priorities for them. So whether it's closet space or whatever it may be, I know that that's important to them, and I can help highlight it. So I love previewing.
So whenever possible, preview.
In my opinion, yes, it takes extra time, but it's so worth it. And that property that you see that you're previewing may not be right for the client you had in mind, but I promise you, somewhere in the next kind of like discussions you're having, all of a sudden, and it could be 3 weeks later, and that property hopefully still on the market, you're like, oh my God, the property that I saw for so and so that wasn't right is totally right for someone else. There's no wasted time. It
I
works.
guess I guess what we're really talking about is learning the inventory. I mean, as simple as it sounds, And inventory is, of course, always changing, but this idea of being a master of the inventory is really so critical. It's not, hey, I'm gonna go on this journey with you and we're gonna walk into this home together and check it out. It's, I'm gonna go on the journey first. I'm gonna check everything out so that I can bring back, and it's a simple thing, but I don't know that most agents even preview properties. I think a lot of them show up with their client, and and that is that's really not it's just my opinion, but it's not really the best client experience that way, I believe.
Yeah, I think, look, everybody has a different, um, a different way of handling their business. Again, it gives me the confidence walking in that I feel like it is really right. I can show
Yeah.
it that better, even though I'm not the shower, the listing agent might be the shower. But um, again, it's just, as you said, getting to know the inventory is just so critical. And
I want to, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, no. I just recently there was a home that I had previewed. I thought it was absolutely like the perfect fit. Brought the couple. The wife looks at me and she's like, "Oh my God, I love this. I love this." But there was something in the husband's face that I was like, mm-mm. And I came back to her a couple of days later and I said, "Look, I sent you this listing. And you said you weren't interested in seeing it for the following reasons, but I noticed your husband's reaction, and I actually think this will appeal to him more." And she's like, "Huh, okay, let's go." And that's the one they bought.
Yeah.
So it's like, just, you know, you have to also be present when you're showing at the show.
Yes, you have to pay attention,
Yes.
and it's actually and that probably being that the physical space isn't new to you at that moment
Yes.
because you've
I
already
could,
previewed it. You now can focus your attention on their reaction versus what's actually going around visually.
I
That you're
could
like, oh, look
really
at
be
that,
in the
look at that.
moment. Exactly. I
That
could be in
is
the moment.
that
Yeah.
is a that's an important tip. And so maybe that's even the best reason of all to preview is well, there's lots of great
No,
reasons.
no,
You can
no.
learn the
But
property.
it allows you to really be watching your client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so right, because I know for me any shiny object captures my attention, and so if I'm walking in somewhere for the first time, I'm looking around and seeing everything visually, and of course that's what the client is going to be doing, and you're really watching them what instead of being taken in yourself by everything. And that is, again, it's a simple thing, but not every realtor thinks about that, and that is really, we're talking about professionalism, I think, and being
Yeah.
professional, and that is such a great idea. So thank you for that. And another question, I want to just switch gears a little bit,
Yeah.
because you were telling me just before we got on,
Yeah.
Leslie and I were
Oh,
talking
no.
about, I am so jealous because I live in Chicago and we are the second city, and New York is probably the first city and so I live in a very wonderful place, but I'm so jealous because New York is such a lovely place. And we were talking about all things New York. But you were telling me that you just recently had some success on social media with TikTok. And, this is really interesting because I've been doing the show for 5 years and no one's talked TikTok yet. And I'm not asking you to give away any secrets or any, but we are starting to see realtors now embrace TikTok, which is being used, of course, by the demographic of TikTok users skews younger, and so I'm curious on what you're doing there and what sort of results you're seeing, because you just had a big success there.
Yeah. So I've been doing Instagram, obviously for quite a while now. And I have a team that helps and supports me. And I kept saying, think we really need to be on TikTok, think we really need to be on TikTok. And they're like, yeah, it's new. And I'm like, So I may even be late to the game because I was harping on this, but we really only started a couple of weeks ago. And again, I'm doing things that are truly, truly genuine to me and really comfortable for me. Usually around it's around properties. Although, as I mentioned to you, I just happened to do one around hot chocolate because I do like to bring in a little bit of lifestyle and like things that are popping up in Manhattan that could be useful tidbits. But they're usually centered around a property that I'm promoting, and just having a ton of fun with it. But like, again, it's really, really new to me. And this one particular video went viral, and we have like now 270,000 hits on it. And I'm like, okay. So, and I'll just share with you that my son, who's 25, he's like, hey mom, my friends are loving you on TikTok. And they say, you're so professional. Hey mom, I didn't even know you were on TikTok. And he goes, I don't have TikTok. And I was like, yeah, well.
Hey
So,
mom, stay out of my friends' TikToks.
well, I wasn't there watching, they're following me. It wasn't like,
Is
you know.
But isn't that amazing? If you put out good quality content or fun content, entertaining content, whatever it might be, it can, we do have ways, we do have the opportunity now with technology where things can spread, and it's all about value. And so I imagine TikTok is and as well as Instagram is fun for you, because with your marketing background, you get to really project. I'm curious too about how you stay in touch with clients in between their sales, right? So somebody buys a co-op, maybe they're going to live there for X number of years. How are you staying in touch with them in between?
Yeah. So and that's always a really hard thing, because you're really, really busy with your day to day. So
Yeah.
I do a monthly newsletter, and sometimes it's not, as frequent. Sometimes it's more frequent if it's important, but I definitely do a monthly newsletter. I really love my clients. Like, I really, really love my clients. So fortunately, that means having coffee with them, having a lunch, having a drink. And it may not be as, sometimes you can do it more frequently. Everyone's schedule is really, really busy, but your clients sometimes become your really good friends. Sometimes,
Yeah.
and as I said, some are with me forever and repeat business. And then it's little things like just reaching out and following up. How are you enjoying your apartment? Love to see it. Love to drop by. And then I do every now and then. I don't do holiday gifts because they get lost in the clutter, but I will pick a different time of year to do a gift and do a mailing of a gift. So, and it could be, years we did champagne. It's just another way of just saying, thinking of you. And usually for the first year, when someone buys from me, they'll get like wine of the month. So each month, or depending on who they are, maybe it's flowers each month. So each month there's like a little, and I handwrite the notes to them. So each, like January would be a different note for me. Like, so, each month for that first year, they're hearing from me.
Yeah, no, I love that. I also, just because this was, it's pull back the curtain a little bit about how we book our show. We send questions to our guests, and I never ever get to the questions, but there was
Okay.
one response that you gave that I just thought was so cute, and I really wanted you to share us this story
Oh no.
of this year that you were named the mayor by a
Um,
client. So I don't want to give away the punchline, but do you mind sharing the story, because this is such a great holiday story.
well, it just is so, to be a mayor of something, right? It should be actually really quite charming. And when a client of
Yeah.
yours says that you're like the mayor, it's like, oh, it should be really, really flattering. But this was a client that definitely we had identified the Upper East Side, which I know like the back of my hand, know really, really, really well. But he's like, you're the mayor of Nofu. And I'm like, mayor of Nofu? Like, what is Nofu? And he's like, it's the Upper East Side, Leslie. You're the mayor of Nofu. And I'm like, what is Nofu? And he said, no fun. And I'm like, oh my God.
So you're
That is
the mayor
awful.
of the no fun part of New York.
And again, it wasn't because I'm not no fun, but he was like nervous that the Upper East Side had this reputation of not being fun, and that people always went downtown to have fun. So yes, I was named the mayor of NoFu, and so I got such a kick out of it.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So curious how you've seen, like, for 20, so by the time this will be released, it'll be in January. We're actually recording it here in December. 2023, you've been through several market cycles. you
Yeah.
you were you went through the crash of '08,
Yeah.
and does 2023, do you have any fear about 2023? How are you approaching the new
So
year?
I mean, not only have I been through the crash, right, but the pandemic.
Yes.
Like, and I did not leave the city. I was here for my clients. I did not leave. And I had clients who would call me during the pandemic and they say, "What is happening on West 79th Street?" And I'm like, you know what? Let me go over there. And I'd go running over because the Lucerne had given over their hotel to them, whatever.
Yeah.
But, news media can make things sound that much worse. And so boots on the ground. But anyway, point being, I've been through so many different cycles that I think you really need to just be confident that people do need to move, right? There are always going to be circumstances, and you need to figure out in any given market what the advantage is. So we had low interest rates, and there was a minute moment where the market kind of dropped, right? But only like 8 to 10%, even during the pandemic. But if you had the guts to buy then, that was a brilliant time. So 2023, we're kind of looking at a first half of the year potentially being difficult, maybe a couple more price increases, but I think, interest rate increases, but I think people have already experienced that and have the knowledge. And we're looking at a really strong second half of the year. That's my prediction. So if you can work with your clients at a time when the first half of the year people are nervous, there are opportunities. So that's a great time to negotiate. And there's a great saying, date the rate, marry the home.
Yeah.
So if someone is, nervous about interest rates, you can change your interest rate later. But if you find that home you love and you need to finance, just know that that's a possibility. So I think, it has to be business as usual. You have to know your market, you have to know your comps, and think about the opportunities, because you may, in the first half of the year, like, find that there are people that are still a little bit nervous and willing to negotiate a bit more. So
Yeah, there is negotiation. It happens now. It didn't
it
happen
didn't
for the last.
happen. No, I mean, there was, just a year ago or whatever, you could walk around the block and you had to make a decision, right? So
Do you have any buyers that are feeling remorse, that, oh gosh, when interest rates were at 3%, I should have pulled the trigger? Do you have to counsel people through that, because again, yes, and prices were also super inflated. You were competing against many other buyers, and you were going to probably pay more. So I'm just curious on
yeah,
if you
so now
had.
that's where you kind of have to, help them understand that, guess, you're getting that property at, a better value. So yes, you may be paying more in your monthly for your mortgage, but that same property a year ago, you wouldn't be able to negotiate on. So
Right.
there's always, and that is why kind of the date, the rate is also gives people confidence that, what, maybe I can change it later. But historically, we are still at really low interest rates,
I know.
like
And
really, really low. And yes, it's
really,
not
really low.
really,
Yes.
really low.
Let's
And
not
it's
freak
still,
out, everybody. We're
um,
we're not in
yeah,
double
yeah,
digits. We're not,
no, exactly. And the other thing is New York, not for everyone, but we're a very cash driven city. So we have a lot of cash deals that have always happened, that will continue to happen. bonuses may not be as strong as other years, but bonuses get paid. So, you have to look at Manhattan, look at the concrete things that happen, and our market continues. I'm not concerned. So,
Good. Well, that is very reassuring to our audience and to me as well, because I have not been in it for 18 years, and haven't weathered all of the cycles and storms that you have. But I'm glad to hear that you are not particularly worried about 2023, and that will help
yeah,
calm.
there's too much discussion about recession in first half and then pulling out really fast. So in a V, going right back.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
we'll certainly hope for the best. Leslie, I am so happy that you spent time with us today. You are a real treasure. And for anyone out there who is an agent who either has clients who move to New York City, would want to refer business to, and maybe you don't practice in New York, Leslie would love the opportunity to connect with you. Of course, many people have properties in the New York City area. So if you're an agent in another part of the country and you want to refer business out and get in touch with Leslie, she would love to chat with you. And also, if you're an agent in New York City and you're looking to join a really super successful team under Leslie's leadership, you might be a good fit for her, or they might be a good fit for you. So Leslie, if another agent wants to reach out to you, what's the best way that they should do that?
I think email is actually really great. So I would say lsinger@bhsusa.com. And I can repeat that. It's lsinger@bhsusa.com.
And we'll have a link to that in our show notes as well. Leslie is a superstar agent in New York City. We are so excited that she spent the last hour here with us. And we want to thank her on behalf of our audience. So on behalf of the audience, Leslie, we say thank you for spending your time. We know how busy. Well, and also on behalf that you're welcome. And on behalf of Leslie and myself, we also say thank you to our audience to continuing to support and listen to our episodes. Best way that you can help us grow, everyone, is just tell a friend. Think of one other realtor that needs to hear this episode, this conversation with Leslie. Oh my God, she gave like 5 incredible tips in this episode that can really help transform someone's business. Send them a link to this episode. They need to hear it. Everyone is stressed about 2023. Leslie's not. And she explained why, and she gave a lot of great suggestions about how to handle 2023. So send this podcast episode over to another realtor that is struggling right now. And Leslie, thank you so much for being on our show. We're so grateful to have you. And we will see everybody on, everybody go follow Leslie as well on Instagram and TikTok, Singer Team NYC, Singer Team NYC, SINGER. We will have links to those. They are doing some really cool stuff on social. Definitely check them out. Leslie, it was such a pleasure having you on the show.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.